they start out at the beginning saying he's a family man. And then one by one, this trickle of evidence comes forward suggesting that he's in MS-13.
He said the car, that was not his vehicle. He said it was owned by his boss. Who was the boss that he identified? Who was the owner of that vehicle? I mean, that was an individual who was, in fact, convicted of migrant smuggling. So that's, his connections are more than just allegations. He is connected to an individual who was convicted of human smuggling. Same sort of deal.
Welcome to No Border, No Country. The Maryland man returns to the United States. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the El Salvadoran national who was in the news recently, has been returned to the U.S., and a piece of information has come to light that will possibly affect this case even further. I'm joined today by Jason Hopkins from the Daily Caller. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
So you had a big story recently. Tell us, you looked into Abrego Garcia, and what did you find?
Yeah, got some more information on on his alleged activity into migrant smuggling, and also let me start. Thanks to you guys. Your organization was able to help us here with the records request. Every state's different, and they had some obstacles that you helped us get around there. So thank you. But yeah, so for those who may have not been seeing the huge news here, it was Friday. The DOJ announced that Abrego Garcia has returned to the United States from El Salvador to face charges of human smuggling. The indictment did drop. That is public. We're able to read that. Pretty stunning to show that he's now accused of over 100 trips, smuggling suspected illegal aliens, from the Mexican border throughout the United States. This guy, he was a Maryland man, I guess, so he was dropping them off in Maryland. But that indictment was kind of slim on details and certainly no other names. And I do think that's kind of where our report comes in. We did post that as soon as the announcement from the DOJ dropped. It looks like, I'm sure he has many associates that are tied to this alleged conspiracy that he was involved in. But we were at least able to pinpoint one who looks like a prime suspect. I'll be careful with my language here, who is involved in this migrant smuggling conspiracy. Ishmael Melara Flores. We were able to tie him to Abrego Garcia with the same, he was caught, we threw this through police reports, court records, showing that they did drive the same exact vehicle. I mean, we were able to verify that through same exact car, year, license plate, everything. So yeah, we got one other name. I'm sure there's going to be other names that are going to drop here. This guy's apparently, Abrego Garcia has been doing this for years, a lot of trips. I'm sure there are a lot of names involved. I think this rabbit hole is going to go way deep as we learn more.
So when he first came to light, his story, the usual suspects were very quick to rush to his defense, and they were saying things like, "Well, he's not a human trafficker. He's a Maryland man. He's a father." All these things, and in part due to your report, we're finding out there's a whole other side of this story. And when you combine it with the other individual that you identified, if you put away the partisan lens, it really looks like there's this pipeline going from Texas to Maryland that he appears to have been a part of. It looks like him and this other guy were at least two of the players in this. And why are people denying this at this point? It's really becoming clear. I mean, what else could it be other than that?
They're denying it because they don't want to admit the truth, I suppose, or it's just too inconvenient, right? I mean, critics of the Trump administration, of his crackdown on illegal immigration, they were so quick to seize on this, mistakenly deported, right? Mistakenly deported. This guy, he did have Abrego Garcia. He did enjoy a withholding of removal order, which is a little similar to asylum, which, by the way, we can safely assume now, I mean, he gets convicted of these charges. That withholding with order is way gone. That kept him from being repatriated back to his home country of El Salvador. But I would imagine there's some level of embarrassment here, and that's why they don't want to admit this. I mean, when he was first sent back to El Salvador, We had, of course, Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen. He made this huge trip over there, really fighting for not only is he not a citizen, he wasn't even here legally, going through all these hoops to get him back. Other Democrats have since followed him. There was a delegation that traveled over there, stayed at a fancy resort, by the way, hotel, also calling for his return. They were demanding meetings. And then you had even another Democrat congressman afterwards go. So it's just a steady stream. They really seized on the situation. And while they were doing that, we've just had this trickle of information about this guy come in. We do know he was not arrested, excuse me. He was pulled over in Tennessee, 2022, suspected of human smuggling then, because again, we're seeing these same situations here. He was caught. He had 8 people in his car, no luggage, despite it being a cross country trip there from Texas to Maryland. They all gave the same address, very sketchy. We even have the police footage, not dash cam, but police footage of them talking to each other and saying, "Yeah, this looks very much like human smuggling." And since then, of course, the DOJ indictment dropped. We've got our report showing, he's connected to another guy who's, hauling, around 10 people, again, cross-country border trip. And then, of course, this is on top of the domestic abuse allegations and the gang affiliation allegations. But even though we've got this slow trickle of information that this guy isn't just some family man from Maryland, they're embarrassed. I assume they'd be embarrassed. I mean, if reporting is to be believed, Hakeem Jeffries has instructed Democrats to kind of lay low on the issue, but he's publicly denied that he did that. But we'll see as time goes on.
Did you notice that when Pam Bondi announced that he was being returned here to face charges, Van Hollen took to social media and said words to the effect of, it wasn't about the man, it was about due process, where prior to that, they were treating him as if he was this latter-day Nelson Mandela in incarceration that they all turned into this cause to go visit.
Yeah, and I suspect that's just going to be the angle that they hang their hat on now. It's just, it's all about due process, even, because at this point, there's really no denying this guy is at least involved in something very shady here, but they're going to say, well, everyone deserves due process. And of course, that's true. Why we don't demand due process when foreign nationals enter here illegally, I don't know. But this is their way of saving face, I'd imagine.
Isn't this whole saga with Abrego Garcia interesting? Because it's almost like a case of the emperor wears no clothes. They start out at the beginning saying he's a family man. And then one by one, this trickle of evidence comes forward suggesting that he's in MS-13. We had the tattoos on the knuckles. They denied that. They said he was dressed in the Chicago Bulls paraphernalia, which law enforcement said was indicative of a member of the gang. He's doing these runs from Texas to Maryland full of people. How much more evidence do you need? It's almost the old line, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Yeah, really. There's really no denying at this point. I'm very excited to see what more the DOJ has on him. I mean, again, that was a startling number. I mean, over 100 trips, they said they've got. There was initial reports saying, as all this information, came down, he became a national figure, following his deportation. There were reports saying the FBI was investigating this. So I am curious to see what they uncover. Are they just going to keep denying, all this, this is, an embellishment or what? I don't know. But again, yeah, it looks like they'll just have to hang their hat on just due process, because it's going to get to the point where you just really can't deny this guy wasn't just some family man, right? It's DOJ. Pam Bondi said this guy wasn't even a construction worker. That was sort of a side gig or a cover up. It's looking like his main job was human smuggling. And for those who don't know, when he was pulled over in 2022, he said the car that was not his vehicle. He said it was owned by his boss. Who was it? Who was the boss that he identified? Who was the owner of that vehicle? I mean, that was an individual who was in fact convicted of migrant smuggling. So that's, his connections are more than just allegations. He is connected to an individual who was convicted of human smuggling. Same sort of deal. I mean, if you read the DOJ report on that individual, that person's clients, again, just it was a trip from the border to another part of the United States, just packed in with all packed in a car. Looks like this is just their modus operandi,
So, Jason, what's your understanding now? He's facing these charges. Assuming he were to be convicted, he would do this time here in the United States, and then the government could send him back then to a third country?
Yeah, absolutely. If convicted, I certainly imagine he will serve his time, unless perhaps, and this is something President Donald Trump has said. I mean, he does seem okay with having foreign nationals serve time outside of the United States, right?
Right.
And that's actually what CCOT would be for. So whether he serves time here or in El Salvador, we can safely assume he will be going back. He will be going back if convicted. That withholding of removal order that he enjoyed since 2019, he wouldn't qualify for that anymore. Not when you're convicted of migrant smuggling.
Do you think this whole new development will quell the criticism that, well, he never received due process? He was just sent out. He's been flown back to the U.S. at taxpayer expense. He's now facing a court. He's facing charges. What could be said at this point that he was not given due process?
Yeah, assuming he's convicted of these charges, he's either going to serve his time here, or the Trump administration would be very eager to let him just go ahead and serve his time back in CCOT or maybe another Salvadoran prison. But either way, we can safely assume he will be going back to his home country. Being convicted of something like that, he can kiss his withholding of removal order that protected him from deportation goodbye. I mean, that's definitely out the window there. So, and this is something Bondi spoke on when announcing the indictment. She said he will be going back. So I don't know, maybe some of the Dems who defended him and wanted him back could cheer a little bit that he's returned, but with these serious charges he's facing, it's probably not going to be a long celebration.
So I know you've been following the riots in L.A. What do you make of that?
Well, it's kind of similar, I feel like, to the Abrego Garcia story, in that you've just had this rush of people defending or protesting against immigration enforcement, right? That's how this started. I believe it was Friday. These protests quickly turned violent, turned into riots, protesting over ICE deportations. Come to find out, these people that they're trying to defend are pretty bad dudes, right? I mean, we're now just getting more a trickle of information about the individuals that ICE arrested in the LA area. We're talking about people convicted of not just arrested, convicted of manslaughter, second-degree murder, cruelty to children, distribution of heroin, cocaine. I mean, if I could ask a rioter, this is what you're protesting against: an illegal alien who's been convicted of homicide, really? It just bizarre. It's bizarre. And polls show this too. I mean, the American people, they don't support this. These rioters are just not helping their cause at all. And it doesn't help your cause either to be protesting deportation to Mexico, Guatemala, while waving the Mexican and Guatemalan flags. That makes no sense. I don't think that would make sense to anyone with a clear head.
Let's talk about those protesters for a moment, because Karen Bass went on social media and said she stands for all immigrants, and again, conflating legal and illegal immigrants. We see these images of people brandishing the Mexican flag, desecrating the American flag. Do they think this is going to swing the polls back in their favor as far as support from the people for their issue?
There's just no way, right? And we've seen this story play out before. I mean, this is very reminiscent to the George Floyd riots, right? I mean, after the death of George Floyd, the American public was very sympathetic for understandable reasons for that, and that action that took place. But then what followed that, right? Just widespread national riots, destroyed buildings. There's nothing that can hurt your cause more than something like that. There's Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass. I understand they have to walk a tightrope here because you got to hate the orange man no matter what. But you've got to unequivocally just denounce these actions, or you're just going to lose the American public. Absolutely.
So, Jason, where can people read more of your work?
Yeah, definitely. A reporter for the Daily Color News Foundation. You can find me on X. Check out my byline. I'm on there always covering anything immigration.
Okay, Jason Hopkins, outstanding work on your latest story. Congratulations on that. And please come again.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. And thank you for your help on this investigation too.
You got it. Take care. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the Immigration Reform Law Institute, go to irli.org. If you found this information useful and you'd like to support the show, go to irli.org/podcast. You can also hear this show on Apple Podcasts, Rumble, and Spotify. And don't forget to check us out on all the major social media platforms. Thanks again.